Hello, guys, and welcome to another podcast for the Everyday Republic. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week. So let's get right into it. Just to start off, if you would like to hear more, just go to everydayrepublic.com, and we will try to get this content up and running for you guys, so you can view it there. But I want to start out by saying the obvious news. So the Dow Jones Industrial has now risen to 26,000 points. 26,000. That is a huge milestone. And in fact, Apple just decided to Apple has decided to repatriate some of the funds they have outside of the United States borders and put it into the U.S. economy. There are a lot of articles on Market Watch, but the primary news organization who wrote this was CNBC, where they talk about Apple talking about bringing foreign cash into the United States, hiring 22,000 more people, and building another campus outside of Silicon Valley. Or maybe inside. I don't know. And at that point, who cares? Right? Because if American jobs are being created, then it doesn't matter. Unless they're government jobs. I think we can all agree there that government jobs, some matter, some don't. We'll get into that later. But anyway, so the Dow comes up. Apple, Bank of America, U.S. Bancorp posting very strong January numbers as far as profits go. And seems like America is going into a new golden age, despite Donald Trump's start of his second year. So let's talk about Donald Trump a little bit. So Donald Trump had the fake news awards, which I thought was hilarious. So, but a lot of other people did not think so, like Jim Acosta. The Daily Caller actually had a story about Jim Acosta that he did not like it when he was at the event on press freedom hosted by Newseum and the Committee to Protect Journalists. A Politico journalist informed Acosta that CNN had four stories honoring CNN in their fake news. Here are all four of them. So one of the stories was candidate Donald Trump and Don Jr. had access to hacked documents from WikiLeaks. That was untrue. Another one was CNN falsely edited a video to make it appear President Trump defiantly overfed fish during a visit with the Japanese Prime Minister. Japanese Prime Minister actually led the way with the feeding. And I've actually seen that video, and it's pretty funny that Donald Trump. There's a lot of parodies about that where Donald Trump just defies him and pours the entire entire bowl of food into the water, which was funny but fake. CNN falsely reported about the mooch, Anthony Scaramucci's meeting with a Russian, but retracted it due to a significant breakdown in process. Uh, and CNN had a lot of fake news about uh, Anthony Scaramucci, sloppy Steve Bannon, as we like to call him now. Uh, there's a whole lot other Trump cabinet members, but CNN seems to have had a bunch of significant breakdown in processes with all of these people, and it's funny, but again, fake and false, and meant to scare Trump supporters or win over Trump supporters. So, and then last but not least, CNN falsely reports that former FBI Director James Comey would dispute President Trump's claim that he was told he is not under investigation. So, what does this all mean? Let's take a step back and see what CNN is trying to do. So, what CNN is trying to do here is, ever since Election Day, I don't know if you guys have seen the CNN meltdown when Donald Trump won the presidency, and the day after, and the day after that, and ever since November 8th, 2016. But they melted down, and some people were crying on camera, which I thought was completely uncalled for. There's no reason for crying, but if you must, that just shows how extremely biased you are towards against a candidate. But back to the point, CNN has not liked Trump ever since he won the election. In fact, a really good point made by it was either Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity on the radio, said that the Democrats in the press are focusing more on the upcoming government shutdown because of the Democrats, that now the tax cuts, the Apple, Bank of America, Bancorp can't be focused on. Bank of America and Apple together will bring in about $400 billion into the United States. Repatriated funds. Overseas, of course. And they're creating a lot more jobs. And nobody would ever think that, nobody had thought that Donald Trump's tax cuts would work this well, and they have. And people are trying to focus away from that because they don't want to admit Trump's success. They don't like him. Well, it's the truth. It just think about this. So, why do you think the sexual assault? Why do you think all the sexual assault scandals came out that same week that Trump was in Asia? I mean, the cases were years, even decades old, but yet they come out the week that Trump takes a trip to Asia, including, mind you, China, which we have a huge trade deficit with. They have a trade surplus in China, and Donald Trump made great things happen in his Asia trip, but nobody focused on that. Instead, they focused on Matt Lauer. They focused on that who is that Senate nominee out of Alabama. Roy Moore. And it's true. It is most definitely true. Uh, who brings up sexual assault? 42 years or 32 years after it's happened. If you are not trying to bring attention away from something, why not bring it? Why not bring that sexual assault up a year before, or even when the man was on the Alabama state court system? He was in the Alabama state court system. He was one of the judges, but what the accusers of sexual assault did was they all used 1 week, the 1 week that Donald Trump went to Asia, and made great things happen. And apparently, China likes us. The stocks in Shanghai, the stocks in Beijing are up. Europe likes us. The DAX of Germany is up. And his trip to Asia was almost unheard of. It almost went unseen because we were focused on sexual harassment, and we were focused on Matt Lauer and Harvey Weinstein and that redheaded comedian actor. But the point is, they tried to focus attention off of Donald Trump and the successes that he is having, because they're seeing that he's having success and he's having a good time in office, and they don't like that. And how does this tie into tax cuts? How does this tie into the current situation now? Well, because the Democrats are focusing attention on DACA. They're focusing attention on save the dreamers, government shutdown if we don't save the dreamers. And Donald Trump because of Donald Trump's success, we see Apple, we see Bank of America, we see Bancorp making extremely high profits in the first month of the year, having great potential through fiscal year 2018. But they don't want to talk about that. And unfortunately, that is your Democratic Party. And some Republicans are doing it too, because people like Senator Lindsey Graham does not like the president, and they'll focus on DACA. Granted, it is a government shutdown, but they're not focused on Apple coming back. Instead, Donald Trump is having to do it himself in a Pennsylvania rally, where he tells supporters how good these tax cuts are, how much the voters needed this, and even people who didn't vote for Trump weren't expecting this from simple tax cuts. But apparently they're not simple. Apparently they're the biggest in history. But we will see when they do ultimately take effect. And also, how extremely partisan is it to shut down the government because you're worried about DACA recipients and the illegal immigrants? You're worried about illegal immigrants and DACA recipients who are, again, illegal. And because you won't get what you want, you are willing to defund the entire government. Have people go home. And And again, some government workers I don't think should be there, but that is for another time. The point is, uh, you are willing to shut down the government. You are willing to uh, not pay the men and women who are overseas fighting for your freedom, because and more importantly, fighting for your borders, fighting so that way you can be safe from other countries and that they can't invade you through your own borders. And you people want to not pay them because you are wanting people to come through your borders illegally. It's partisan, and honestly, it's borderline immoral that they would do that. And I hope a lot of these senators are not reelected in 28 and 20 in the midterms in 2020 and 2022. I hope they all get out. And this is it, folks. This is your Democratic Party. We are seeing the Democratic Party for what it is. They want to, shut down the government. They want to allow illegal immigrants into your homes. They want to take away your guns. And what's ironic about this is that they claim they are the party of justice, and they are the party of equality and freedom. But they're fighting for something that is completely unequal. Their fight for illegal immigration, and at the same, their fight for illegal immigration at the cost of their own citizens is the biggest inequality scene I've seen for a long time. They're fighting for illegals, and where their priorities are. Their priorities are with the illegals, and they are not with you. They do not care about you. And this is what we have. This is the Democratic Party. But enough of that. We'll go over here to Apple, bringing back money to the United States economy from overseas. And it just seems like a better idea, honestly, to do business in the United States, even though we don't have those tariffs up yet. However, we might in 2018. I firmly believe that the Republicans have a very good chance at getting 55, 56 seats in the Senate. And of course, we're going to win in the House. There's just so many districts that have been flipped. And if the Senate and if Republicans for the Senate and Republicans for the House can put Trumpians, not hardcore. I don't want blind allegiance, but I do want America First policy, and I do want tax cuts for all. If you can put good Trumpian, Republican, conservative people in the Senate and in the House, if you can put them up to run against Democrat incumbents or House incumbents, then we'll do it. Then what's going to happen is we're going to win in the House and in the Senate. So let's talk about Apple for a second. Apple and others bringing home foreign cash may be a big enough force to boost the U.S. dollar. Now, this is actually sort of this kind of conflicted in my mind because I'm like, well, how is having more of something in one place better for the country or better for the U.S. dollar? Obviously, but it's going to be better for the country, but better for the U.S. dollar. If there's more of something, doesn't that make it less valuable? And apparently not. The dollar index. By the way, this is CNBC who is reporting this. The dollar index is down about 10% this past year, but it looks like it's going to get a pickup from Apple, Bank of America, U.S. Bancorp. Apple has $250 billion overseas, and it looks like they're willing to pay $38 billion of it to taxes. And that's not exactly, justice or anything, but it's fine. I mean, if Apple wants to bring home that money, then it ought to pay taxes on it, I guess. However, it's a little bit weird that we would make them pay taxes on money they're bringing back in here. It's like we're doing them a favor, or Apple's doing us a favor, and we tax them for it. But whatever. As long as that money gets in here, and as long as they pay taxes, I'm fine with it. So, looks like Bank of America equity strategist said that there's over $1 trillion in overseas cash in non-financial companies. And it looks like Apple, Bank of America, and a lot of tech companies want to bring that money back because, as you guys probably know, tech companies seem to have headquarters in separate countries. And that's probably because of the South Korean technology jump, and it's probably because of the Japanese and they probably don't have one in Japan, but the Chinese and the European interest in American engineering. So, Microsoft, Apple, all these companies have money overseas, but CNBC reports that it might not be that way for long, and the U.S. dollar could go up because of this, because more money in the economy is being the flow of money is certainly going to increase. And again, I'm on the ropes about how that's going to affect the dollar, but we'll see.